Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Today, Piston fans, we're going to start talking about some of the positive things that happened this year, and that might be hard for most of you to comprehend when you realize we only won 17 games. And if you watched some of the horrible basketball, we did lose a lot of close games. We did have a lot of games where we played even 3.5 quarters of good basketball, only to lose the game at the end. But we also got to see some really great improvement from a bunch of our players. But I'm going to start out today by talking about the improvement that you did not see, which might end up being one of the most significant positive improvements on the Piston team in history. So, Cade's injury was a disaster. It was heartbreaking for me. I love watching him play, and I look forward so much to watching him play. But the silver lining, I'm going to tell you, is very real, very possible. So, Cade spent his downtime, he couldn't really run or do anything. He spent time even working on his shot, and he said that he's tweaking his shot and his shooting mechanics, and he has more lift and more power on his three-point shot. Well, if you listen to this podcast, since I started it just before the season this year, I talked about Cade and throughout when he was still playing about the arc on his shot, the lift on his shot. His shot was flat. And he talked about that, but he had to sit out, and then he had surgery, and then during this time that he was rehabbing, even he would break down and work on his shot, and he changed it, and he said that he was able to, during the season, you're never able to really work on your shot and to break it down the way that you need to break it down. He said, my shot was flat when I first got to the three-point line out of college. So the college line is a little bit shorter. So he felt like when he was shooting from the longer distance, his shot flattened out. And I was able to observe that even before the season started. I went to the open practice and I took pictures of Cade shooting, and his follow through, instead of reaching up high, he reached out, and that when you reach out on your follow through instead of up, your shot is flat. And so he said, I feel like now my comfort level at the 3-point line has grown a lot, and I'm having all this time off has really helped me do that. I've been able to build it up from the ground up. During the season, you don't have that chance or the time to do it. So having all the time, I've tried to make the most of it and build a good foundation for my shot. And like I said, he needed that lift. And so, again, I was dying. Even during his rookie year, his shot was so flat. And I thought, man, those shots are going to go in if he just had a little more arc. And I just wanted to somehow reach out to him. And then I knew Coach Beeline, and I kind of know Coach Beeline a little bit, but not great. But I wanted to so badly tell him. I did get to talk to him at a coach's clinic last fall, and when I brought up the subject of his follow through, he said, yeah, we try to work with him that on every day, but it's a matter of even reprogramming his shoulder muscle so that his arm would go up instead of forward. But muscle memory is a tough thing. And I have noticed as a head coach that it's almost nearly impossible to improve a shooter's form and to make adjustments or changes in a shot during the season. I would have my players do a lot of shooting. My teams were among the best three-point shooting teams in the state. And we spent a lot of time working on form, breaking it down, and then getting lots of shots off in practice. But during the off season, I would do individual workouts with the kids, and we would really be able to make good gains there. But during the season, I would have 2 kids shoot at each basket. We'd had 6 baskets in our gym, and I would try to monitor each kid's shots, and I would give input at every kid as I watched them shoot. And often my shooters would have a flat shot, and their follow through would go out forwards instead of up. So, but the chances of them changing that, I would constantly be telling them that up, not out, and and they would still continue to shoot flat. I was more successful during the offseason. So that's what's happened with Cade. So I really believe that if Cade wouldn't have had this injury and had all this offseason where he couldn't jump or run or do any of that stuff. I even heard that, he sat on a bar stool, like, not at the bar, and he shot sitting in that stool, again, focusing on his form and reaching that arm up instead of out. So I am excited about that, and if he can shoot the three, which I'm even more confident than ever that he will get that, and it's part of it is the person who Cade Cunningham is. And if you followed him in his career and listened to what he says and what he does, not just what he says, you know that he is going to work hard and do the very best he can to make himself better. So Cade's also really excited about this upcoming season. He's sitting on the bench. You can see him cheering. You can see him up after every made shot. You can see him talking to players as they're coming back to the bench. You can see his connection that he has. And we're going to talk about especially with Ivey, but you also see it with Duran. And I love seeing him sit on the bench and right next to Bogey when Bogey was sitting out the last month or more. And they would be in conversations. And anyway, Cade said, I'm just excited about the group that we have and the steps that we are coming up for us. Next year is the year for us. It's a huge year, a year that we need to take another step and improve to be better. And it's that attitude and that leadership that he has. And I'm going to have an episode just focusing more on Cade's leadership and his leadership compared to other NBA players. But he is just, he has that attitude, and he instills that in each and every player. There's just something that he has, some innate ability that he's had, and he's had that wherever he's been as a high school player and on like the pre-Olympic teams when he's always been the leader, and he's always had that, and it's the way he carries himself, his body language, everything that he says, everything that he does, and he's continuing that, and just by making a statement like that we're going to be better and we're going to improve, and I'm really confident that's going to be part of next year. It's going to really, I think, infiltrate the whole team. So I've even sent a photo of Cade's follow through and how his arm went out, and I sent it to Coach Beeline, and he said, "Yeah, that's right." Coach Beeline said, "I'm going to show Cade that tomorrow." And he's, they have been working with that. But again, as much as Coach Beeline works with all the shooters every day, and the remarkable improvement on Jaden Ivey's shot is undeniable. You can see it. You can see the difference in his form. But anyway, that extra force that he has in his lift on his shot has made all the difference in the world. And Cade said, my shot was flat when I first got out to the 3-point line. I feel like it now. I'm comfortable, and when I'm at the 3-point line, and it has grown a lot. My confidence has grown a lot, and having all this time off really has helped me too. And I'm able to build it from the ground up. And during the season, you don't get that chance. And I've already said that, but I just want to repeat that because it is so significant, and we got that this season. We suffered and we missed out on Cade, but that also has played into us having the opportunity to have the best draft odds and get no worse than the 5th pick. And so those, as disappointing as it was to watch this season, he wouldn't have had that improvement in his shot. And I'm really confident that we're going to see that next year. And Ivey, his improvement has been tremendous from 3, and his form has. But we've also seen Ivey improve on his mid-range game. And you hear Troy Weaver say that whatever Ivey needs to do is going to get done just because he has that work ethic. And Cade really said the same thing. But anyway, Cade said, I like the way he's grown throughout the season. Him having the ball more, having more attention to him is really going to pay off. I know he was going to have that, but I realized he was going to pick it up. I didn't realize he was going to pick it up so fast. That was huge for him to feel that. with his work ethic, he's going to be great. And again, that's the fact that he's able to adapt and get better is huge. And the fact that Cade didn't play, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it gave Ivy the chance to have the ball in his hands. And Ivy got the chance to feel what it's like to lead the team and make those passes that he made. You could just see his growth and his vision improve in his ability to make those passes. And if Cade had not gotten hurt, we never would have got to see that. But again, also to Ivy's credit, man, he didn't have a mid-range game. I mean, it was in the scouting report coming out of college, no mid-range game. And what did he do? And this is a change that he made during the season, which again, I talked about that earlier, that it's hard to do that during the season. But Ivy, you could tell he really focused, and people that watched his workout, I've heard people talk about him and his, he has this elaborate pregame workout where he works out longer than other people. So everybody has their certain time that they come out to before games, and they have their workout routine, and every player has an assistant coach assigned to them where they work with that coach, and they have things that they're targeting and working on. And obviously Ivy wanted to get better at the mid-range game, and he made big differences. But the thing about Ivy is he came out during his scheduled time, but then he came out during other scheduled times. And then even after practices, when everybody was getting kicked out of the gym, Ivy was still there. He was the last one. But I want to say this, there's some people that do get in the gym and do put in time, but it's rare for a player who can make those changes. Changing your shot is a difficult thing to do. You have muscle memory that those guys have shot thousands and thousands of shots. And even when a kid gets into ninth grade in high school, it is really hard to change some of their habits. But Ivy has that ability, and partway he wants to do it. But I think it also speaks to his athletic ability and the way that his brain's wired. So Ivy said to be able to be on the court with him, he's talking about Cade, it's the person. It's the person, and everybody that knows Cade and everybody that talks about Cade, and Ivy said it starts with the spirit. He's got that. He's the key to getting every single person going in this locker room. And, you hear people talk about it. I've heard Bogey, he's this big veteran player who played at an all-star level, who's also very respected and very knowledgeable, and has taken on a huge leadership role, and it's, I think, made our team better and taught our players a lot. But still, he recognized that Cade's the leader. Corey Joseph, he said the same things in Magruder. They've all said Cade's our leader. Here's these guys that are 31 and Cade's 21. They're 10 years older. They've played all this time. And it's just, something about Cade. And Cade, they say he's the organizer, he's the connector. All those terms have been used. How he really talks on defense, and how he directs the offense, and how he does whatever needs to be done. If we need a tough shot at the end, his clutch numbers are way up there. And and he's got to watch the game and study the game. And you see him interact when he's been off this season. You see him during every timeout. He's talking to Ivy, or he's talking to Duran. So we're going to talk more about Duran. Today's episode is not going to be so much about Duran, but that has been just an incredible thing to behold this year, is watching the evolution of Jalen Duran, the 19-year-old man-child, and he just exhibits so much talent that nobody even dreamed that he had. Well, I think Troy Weaver did. I guess I'm going to talk about the disappointments this year, and it's not anybody's fault. Well, is like Stu. We really wanted to see Stewart improve, and we really wanted to see him shoot the three. So he started out shooting the three a lot. We wanted him to be able to transition to the four, but he missed. He didn't shoot that well at first, and then he got cooking, and he started hitting for a month or two. He shot a really good percentage, and then he injured his shoulder, so he had a big dip where he shot real bad for at least a month on the threes. I mean, he had a really bad streak where he hardly made any threes. And it coincided with his injury, and there's numbers to back that up. I will say this: just before he went out, and he stopped playing for the rest of the year. He had a couple games right at the very end where he hit a real high percentage on quite a few threes, where he made 4 threes in a game, or 3 or 4. So, and he shot a high percentage. So anyway, that was disappointing. But he couldn't help the injury. Not positive that I am pretty sure that he could have came back maybe, but by the end we were tanking, and it was not worth it to win a few games by having him play and get a lower draft pick or get worse odds to get the draft pick. So that is something else that we did get from this year. As disappointing as it was, we got big improvement especially from Cade off the court, Ivey and Duran on the court, and we also got that high draft pick. And my hope is we never ever tank again throughout in the rest of Cade's career, and I'm confident that we won't. And we just have to wait and see what happens with that. But we're going to talk just a little bit about it's interesting, the odds, and these odds are made up by people. They don't really have much background or knowledge, but what background they did, they put odds on everything. So gambling is a big thing now. But Charles Lee, the assistant coach from Milwaukee, he's 3-1. Kenny Atkins, who's assistant with Golden State, I haven't mentioned him before, but he's kind of mentioned for every job. He's been a head coach. He was at the Nets before they got Kyrie and Durant. He was the head coach there, and he had these young guys that were kind of no names, and Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert and some guys, and they ended up far exceeding expectations when he was there. But I think he applied for the Charlotte Hornets job recently, last year, and he actually, I think, was given the job, or they said he could have the job, but then he decided to turn it down and go back and be an assistant with the Warriors, and they won the championship. But anyway, so he's in the odds. He's, like I said, 4-1. Jerry Stackhouse, who was the former Piston player, coached in Toronto with Dwayne Casey. He coached a team to the G League championship, or it was called the D League back then, I think. And then he had success coaching in college for Vanderbilt. 5-1 odds. Emi Udoka, 6-1, and again, he is probably the best fit of anybody if he didn't have his baggage from the controversy that he had with his relationship with a staffer for the Boston Celtics. Jay Wright, and I don't believe I've mentioned him, but Jay Wright is one of the great college coaches. He's retired, but he is a great coach. He's everything about him. He is phenomenal coach and how to teach. There is really very few college coaches that were real successful that have gone on to be successful NBA coaches. For whatever reason, it just hasn't been translated. I do think that there is a real world where Jay Wright could be a great NBA coach. I don't think that he will probably even apply. So I don't think we have to think about that. Rex Kalamian, that's our assistant coach, who took over 2 years ago when Coach Casey got COVID. He was the head coach, and he's been with Troy Weaver when at Oklahoma City, so he has that connection. So yeah, we'll just see. It's exciting times. We got the head coaching hire that who knows exactly when that's going to come about. It'll be interesting if it comes about before or after the lottery, which is May 16th, where they put the ping pong balls in the big ball and they pull out and see what the draft order is going to be. The NBA draft isn't until later in June, I think June 22nd maybe. Then we have free agency July 1st, so that's another big time. There's also, just before the draft, there's lots of trades. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things to talk about. But like I said, Cade has all this respect for Ivey, and Ivey has all this respect for Cade. And we are going to see one of the best backcourts, I think, in the NBA. I think they are going to become one of the best backcourts in the NBA. They're going to be exciting, and they're going to be very, very good. and I think I think they're gonna be a driving force, just like Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. I mean, we were blessed to get to watch them and see those two guards lead us to a championship. We had um, great Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton that led us to another championship, and they were so much fun to watch, and they were just outstanding players. So anyway, Piston fans, as frustrating as it was, we got a lot of great things that came out of this year, and hopefully that we'll get a great draft pick out of it also. So thank you for listening. If you watch on YouTube, please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. You just have to click a button and then leave a thumbs up. And on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review and do something nice for somebody today. Make their day better, and go Pistons.